This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
I haven't been this excited for a slate of games in the NFL since probably week 1 because we got kind of banger after banger on this slate for week 13. We do start things off with Bills Patriots. That's pretty fun. We'll be talking about that in full for today here on the show. But then Titans, Eagles, Dolphins, 49ers, Chiefs, Bengals. A lot of really fun games in the slate. We're going to break down those with Ryan Williams, get his read on them from a betting perspective, and lay out other bets we like across week 13 over at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Saunas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as mentioned, by Ryan Williams. Check him out on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, happy week 13 to you. Happy blessed week based on the slate we got here. How you doing?
Yeah, blessed week indeed, Jim. I'm happy to be here. We're doing well. We're excited to get after it with week 13. Cannot believe where the season has gone, that we're even talking about it being week 13. December rolled around already. It's just absolutely insane. So, but this is the time of year that we love. So let's get into it, Jim.
Yeah, Christmas decorations are up. You know, we're ready to have the Christmas lights on Sunday while Scott Hansen's yelling at me for whatever reason. You know, it's gonna be a good weekend. We're gonna break down not just those big games, but also a different kind of fun. High totals are back for this week. We'll talk about that and more to get you set for week 13 in just 1 second. But first, a reminder, if you have not already, please make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread, whether it be on the FanDuel YouTube page or over on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, to get these as they go live each and every weekday, because, you know, short shelf lives. We want to make sure you're getting the best numbers because stuff can move after we discuss it. So if you want to get that right as it is posted, make sure you are subscribed or follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear as well, leave us a rating and review. The 2022 NFL regular season has been jam-packed with excitement, and this Sunday will be no different thanks to FanDuel and DirecTV's plan to give you more ways to win. Introducing the DirecTV Sunday Night Showdown, a daily fantasy football contest on FanDuel, awarding $10,000 in cash prizes based around the most exciting part of the week, Sunday Night Football. Here's how it works. Just build your best 5-player roster while staying under the salary cap and follow along as the game unfolds using FanDuel's live scoring feature. Earn points for each stat your players accumulate and watch as your lineup climbs up the leaderboard. The higher up the leaderboard your lineup finishes, the larger share of $10,000 you'll win. It is that simple. The contest is set to go live on Thursday night. So check out FanDuel.com/league/DirecTV-SNF and make sure to submit your picks, your lineups before Sunday night. That's FanDuel.com/league/DirecTV-SNF to get yourself entered. Eligibility restrictions apply. Let's focus now on week number 13. And Ryan, as I mentioned, some high totals here. We'll talk about the Chiefs Bengals specifically later on. But we also have Jags Lions. I'm pumped about that one. That's going to be hopefully pretty fun. We've got Chargers versus Raiders. Some pretty high totals on the board once again. And this year's been low scoring. So when you see these high totals, what's your level of confidence in those games given how parched we've been for scoring this year?
Yeah, I mean, well, look at where the high totals are coming from and where these explosive teams are, Jim. I mean, we're talking about, Dolphins, 49ers, Chargers, Raiders, the Lions and Jaguars, as you mentioned, all being over the 46 kind of threshold that we would look at there for overs, and Chiefs, Bengals. How do I bury the lead? So, yeah, these are where we can see points coming from. I always like to go overs when we get to this point in time, once the buys are starting to wrap up and, you start to see these rookies and kind of things play out where our teams in the playoff hunt, what do they need to do? Are we gambling a little bit more on fourth down and things of that nature? Because the state of the slate starts to dictate that, like, as we just get closer to the season. And especially even when we get on to week 17 and beyond with the backups playing and things of that nature, like it just lends itself to be more of high totals. And also with these teams who are deciding, okay, we don't want to see, we thought we didn't want to see Elijah Moore. And then all of a sudden Elijah Moore's coming out and popping off. Like, these are the type of things that can lend themselves to having more scoring, because Vegas isn't, they don't really they have a good enough read, but I don't feel like they have as good of a read as it is to know what these teams are going to be doing with their depth charts. So that's really what I like too. And then you just look at things like the Seahawks Rams, for example, that opened at 42.5. It's now sitting at 41. But like we've seen, even though that there's no Matt Stafford, that the Seahawks defense has just been willing to give up points to whoever they're facing. And like, are there still enough, Sean McVay's still coaching this team. There's still pieces there. We saw that they can, put up enough points to like make it interesting last week against Kansas City. I think those things lend merit to me wanting to bet overs as it gets to this point in the season.
Yeah, I think with these games specifically, I did take the over on Bengals Chiefs back on Sunday when it was 51. It's 52.5 now, so it's gone up. But I want to just like, my checklist, I think, is important, and it is going to be a case by case basis as a result, because the reason you get low totals, the reason you get low scoring is a lot of factors. One of them being wind. You look at the Bengals Chiefs game, wind speeds around like 4 miles per hour this week. That's pretty sick. That's held steady since Sunday. I did pull up dark sky on Sunday, which was upsetting to me, but I checked before I bet it just to make sure. Still around 4 miles per hour there. The Lions game is indoors. The Chargers game is indoors. Effectively, there is some possibility, but there's effectively no wind at SoFi. So actually, I think they're in Vegas this weekend. Either way, they're not dealing with wind, not dealing with elements for those games. That's a key thing for me this time of year is, are there elements for those games specifically? No. Are there bad quarterback play in those games? I don't think any of the 6 quarterbacks I would classify as being bad. Like, you can make jokes about Jared Goff, but he's been efficient. So right. You've got good quarterback play. You've got no wind. And, we've seen a track record of these teams producing points and giving up points with their defenses. Right. So I had to go through a checklist still, and like the thing is, I think it just kind of is a coincidence that all the teams that check those boxes happen to be playing on this week 13 against each other effectively.
Right. Exactly. And we want to be able to take advantage of that as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start things off here and talk about one of these fun games. I think this game, outside of Chiefs Bengals, is my favorite this week. That is the Titans at the Eagles, because it's two kind of like tough-nosed teams. Like they're bullies. Both these teams are. Both these teams awesome at the line of scrimmage. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites. That's down from 5.5 yesterday. Total is 44.5. And I think part of the reason we've seen this number shortening is because the Eagles offense has sputtered a bit ever since Dallas Goedert's injury. So does that open a window for the Titans to cover here, or what's your read on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's moved a full point, right? Already, like 5.5 to 4.5 is kind of, a crazy bet. And you're looking at it because the public is absolutely in love with the Titans in this spot. And we talk a lot about Mike Vrabel and what he means to this team when they are underdogs, how he's able to coach them up. But I think it's tough for me, it's this spot is Philly. It's the Philly 4.5 if it's moving in this number. I liked them at 5.5. And here's why, Jim, because we know what this offense can do when they are poised to needing to throw, right? And getting away from the run. Like, they've had a couple matchups where they've said, okay, like we can just let Miles Sanders get going and Jalen can do his thing on the ground. And yeah, like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, we haven't needed you in Dallas Goedert's absence. Now, if on the other side, this defense has been struggling, if Derrick Henry is able to get it going, then I like Jalen Hurts' chance to have the propensity to be able to throw the rock against the secondary. And this is a secondary that we had been attacking earlier on this season. So when these two things come to fruition that haven't happened in a while, this is when I want to get ahead of it, because I could easily see the Eagles like holding face at home, coming out here being like, hey, we need to show out the NFC's weak. We're controlling our destiny here and let's ride. And the Titans, I just don't feel like have the firepower that can match if we're getting full throttle Philly. So that's where I lean here, where it's like, if they can, get this front seven going and hold up Derrick Henry, like where are the points coming from on the Titans? If the Eagles get, to 24, like they, and then once that happens, like at what point in the game are the Eagles just going full throttle, Eagles fly and letting that thing ride? And that's why I like the 4.5 here. I think it should be more closer to 6. I'm surprised it moves so heavily favored in the other way.
Yeah, looking at this one, 4.5 is right between what my two models say. My traditional one says 3.99 for the Eagles, and my new one says 5.17. That newer model hates the Titans defense relative to perception. It is much lower on them because they have feasted on third downs. Late down success rate, they're very good because they create chaos, they put you in bad spots, and then they can obliterate you. I think the reason I am okay skewing towards the other model, the one that says it's about a 4-point game, is that I feel like the Eagles, or sorry, skewing towards the one that says Eagles by 5.17 is because I feel like the Eagles might be able to successfully avoid third down here because they're pretty good on early downs. Now, Jalen Hurts has struggled the past couple of weeks. That's a bit concerning. The passing offense has had its 3 worst games relative to expectation have all come the past 3 weeks. But now they've had more time to prepare without Dallas Goedert. Hopefully their offense is better acclimated for playing without him. You do see that sometimes, like the Bengals' first game without Jamar Chase, they got slaughtered, and then suddenly, oh my gosh, they're like a superpower all again. So I feel like for me, it's a stay away pretty easily. But if I had to lean towards one, I'd probably say the model that's higher on the Eagles is probably better. But honestly, it's a stay away for me, and I'm okay just enjoying this game because it's going to be, I think, a pretty fun one to watch.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it.
Similar thing could be said about the Dolphins at the 49ers. 49ers 3.5-point favorites here. Total is 46.5. And I did take the Dolphins money line on Tuesday. Anyway, one of those days I took. They all bleed together at this point. And part of the reason I don't love that bet, I was hesitant to bet it, was because the Dolphins might be without both starting tackles in this game. It sounds like Terron Armstead has a shot to play this week. I'm not sure if that's Mike McDaniel blowing smoke out in the air just to try to throw off the scent. I did bet the Dolphins, though, because this offense has been very good. Even once you adjust for the very easy schedule they face, they've been a top 2 offense in football so far. 49ers, I'm skeptical of them. Now, Christian McCaffrey is banged up. Eli Mitchell won't play this game. Deebo Samuel not at full health. I don't feel great about the fact that I bet the Dolphins here, Ryan, but I want to get your read. What are your thoughts on this game, given that both sides are dealing with pretty impactful injuries?
Yeah, as you talk about being a stay away for you in the previous game of Eagles Titans, I feel like this is stay away for me, and it's that hook. That hook can always change your mindset. Like, do I make this bet or not? And if it was 3 49ers at home, I feel like I'd be much more comfortable with saying, like, yeah, in a close game, like they could just eke out a field goal at the end and let it be what it is, and let's ride and potentially, just let it be a push, I guess. But the 3.5 does make me concerned just because of all the injuries that are just happening in this game in general. And it's like I just never feel comfortable in trusting Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan as home favorites when you think that they should be, taking care of business. I will say that at this juncture, it sits at 46.5 on the total. And for whatever reason, this game to me is just screaming, take the under, because if the Dolphins really can't get going, like it's possession game for the 49ers. Do not let Tyreek Hill beat us with him from when he was at the Chiefs, to eke out the win. And I feel like, again, we're talking about in the NFC and especially in the AFC too, like this game is going to mean a lot to both of these teams. Like, do those emotions ride high, and where we're just seeing kind of some drives kind of peter out and it not really being successful. That game does not bode well for the Dolphins. It bodes more well for the 49ers. But again, that's why it's a stay away, because the Dolphins can put a game out of reach at any juncture. But the offensive line issues, I do want to see more about that before I can even think about taking the plus 3.5 for them.
Yeah, this spread is super interesting to me because FanDuel's been off market all week. It's been 4 most places the entire week. Now it is, 3.5 minus 104 at FanDuel versus plus 4 at minus 110 in most spots. So it's not a huge difference, but they have been off market. The only place giving you 3.5 for this entire time. Moneyline has been pretty consistent for the most part over at FanDuel. It did go to 166 briefly, but they're pretty in line with market there. 172 at FanDuel. Yeah. Versus you got some 160s at some other spots, potentially 175 in one spot though as well. So it's interesting that FanDuel's kind of a bit deviating from market on this game. And I'm not sure if that means like, oh, they're confident in the Dolphins and that can make me feel better about my bet maybe, or what, but I do find it interesting. I think this game, like, I kind of wish I hadn't bet it because I wish this were one I could just enjoy as opposed to it. But I do think that I've been lower on the 49ers for a bit now. I bet against them in the Cardinals game. That didn't go well. Bet against them in the Chargers game. They did cover there. They tried not to, that they did cover there. Did not bite on the Saints one, despite my numbers showing value. So I feel like we got a little bit high in the 49ers, and that does translate to this one too. So we'll see if the Dolphins can overcome those offensive line injuries, given that this is a very good defensive line that could make them pay for that stuff. But it's also important to remember the 49ers had their own injuries too. So
yes,
I don't feel great about the bet, but I don't regret placing it, I think is the way I would say it. Sometimes there will be times where you regret placing a bet. I do not regret betting the over for Chiefs at Bengals. The Chiefs are 2.5 point favorites. Total is 52.5. Got that at 51. So I probably wouldn't take it now, but maybe you have a different read on that. We'll see. But the Bengals won both these matchups last year against the Chiefs, and they're playing really good football right now. So can the Bengals pull off another upset here, Ryan?
You know what I always say, if Patrick Mahomes is 3 or less as a favorite, I gotta ride with him and Andy Reid. And they're on the road here, but anytime we can get Patrick Mahomes at that, I mean, I've seen it. In some places it's 2, 2.5, 2. It's I just have to do that. And you do like this game in general, just because Jamar Chase is coming back at Cincinnati. Like, we will see full health on their side. Obviously there's injuries that are going on with the Chiefs. There's no Tyreek Hill this year, and Kadarius Toney is hurt. Is Juju Smith going to play? But if Kelsey's out there, that's all Patrick Mahomes needs. We've shown that, and this guy is just magical. They've had this game circled on their calendar. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, those two, losing the regular season, losing the playoffs there, in gut-wrenching fashion, because you come out and are boat racing this team in the first half, and then all of a sudden the ghost of Joe Burrow comes out in the second half. But no, I think the way that the Chiefs defense too is kind of playing and really pumped up for this game. That Reed was throwing shade at T. Higgins already, not being able to say his name. And it's just going to be a fun one. And it just, in this sense, if we're talking about 3 points or less, I'm going to ride with the team that has shown me the propensity to do this with Patrick Mahomes. Also, we got to talk about Patrick Mahomes is undefeated when it comes to November and December games, which is absolutely incredible. I can't believe the streak is still going. One of the more accomplished feats, I think, in all of the NFL as it currently stands. So I'm riding with the boy Mahomes on this.
T. Higgins is not someone I'd want to make angry. I know he's not the most physically frightening guy, but he's good. I don't want to tick him off. So I might shy away from that one, Andy. This is another one where my models disagree. The traditional model has the Chiefs by 2.97. That one, I think, is more subject to late down flukiness, and the Chiefs have been unreal on 3rd and 4th down this year. So I'd actually skew more towards my newer model, which has the Chiefs by 0.48, which means a very, very close game, and would imply some value on the Bengals. So that's why I've not bet either side here, because I've got model disagreement. I mean, backtesting both these models the rest of the way to see which one backtests better, to see which one I'll go with for next year. So a little dueling of the models going on the rest of the way. But they disagree here. So I'm just going to stay away. I'll take my over and hopefully root for some points. But I think that it is tough to not be on the Chiefs here, because they are unreal on late downs. That does matter. That's not a fluke. That's a skill. Maybe to the extent which they've been good could be a bit fluky, but it's so tough to be low on them. But I want to get your overall thoughts on the Bengals, because they've been good recently. Do you feel like that is a sustainable uptick for them, or could it just be, had some good spots, had some good games? Are you buying the Bengals broadly beyond this Chiefs game?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, they've been a roller coaster all season long. Like, when you're talking about, okay, you're able to beat the Dolphins, and you're able to, you beat the Titans last week, and you're able to show us some things with the Saints on the road back when the Saints were, still in the mix of things. Right. But how are you lost to the Ravens early on this season? You got embarrassed by the Browns on Halloween. Like, what are we talking about here? And then, barely beating the Steelers by that touchdown, and that had to come late. So, it's tough to trust them. I will say, though, that we did talk weeks ago about having faith in this team because, quarterback-driven league and Joe Burrow and just what Cincinnati did last year down the stretch. And so, okay, you got the Chiefs here, got the rematch against the Browns, you got Buccaneers, then you got Patriots. Like, show us what you got. Like, this is the time for them to kind of show everybody that they belong. But I think like the AFC North is pretty much theirs for the taking. I mean, the Ravens have just really hurt themselves in late games, and they've been dealing with injury bug for the past 2-3 years, it feels like. And so with the Bengals getting healthy and just looking at their schedule, like, if you want people to believe in you, like, now is the time to start putting that up. And I think that if you really have a lean on the Bengals taking the Chiefs this week, I would encourage people to like look at all of their future bets on the FanDuel Sportsbook, because this is probably the best value you're going to get on this team all year.
Yeah, the reason they're plus 210 in the AFC North right now is because of their schedule. Like, they're facing the Chiefs. Like, that's a toss-up. And the Ravens are 8.5-point favorites against the Broncos. Huge discrepancy there. If you think either the Ravens lose this week or the Bengals win, that's going to flip things pretty dramatically. It is pretty tough for the Bengals after that too. But like, I think with the way they're playing, and I believe in them because they've changed some things schematically. They had some like pretty key tendencies based on like whether they were in shotgun or under center that would kind of tell the defense, hey, we're running here, or hey, we're throwing here. They've erased those just by being a shotgun team now. So I think I have more faith in them, and I don't mind the AFC North bet at plus 210. I do think that maybe it could be a situation where I hold off after this week, let the Ravens obliterate the Broncos. That's probably what's going to happen, because that's what the Broncos do. And then see what happens after that. So I have interest there again. I know we talked about the Bengals to win the AFC North a long time ago. I still think that's live, despite their schedule, but we'll see what goes down for this week. Well, let's open things up, Ryan. As I said, a lot of games on the board this week. Where else are you seeing value at FanDuel Sportsbook for week 13?
Oh man, let's go back to my board here. You have me looking. I was going to look up what Joe Burrow's MVP odds were, because I do think that that's interesting.
Let me check here. Actually,
Mahomes is really had been riding that ship, and
Burrow's 15-1.
15-1. I mean,
if he wins this game, that's a narrative flipper right there.
Like, yeah, I mean, if they control their destiny, like beat the Patriots.
He's playing really well. He's playing well. He gets Jamar Chase back now.
It's still, I feel like it's still open, because I don't think that people are really invested in giving it to the Philly quarterback and Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Like, it's Patrick Mahomes to lose, but if he does lose to Joe Burrow this week, and if they, struggle again, and Bengals are just kind of winning out, like, people love this team. They love Joe Burrow. And so if we can get value there, 15-1, I do like that. Okay. Where else am I seeing value here? Let's see, where's my card here? So I think the first game that I wanted to talk about was just Packers Bears, just because of what the narratives are around this team. And obviously I don't think we can feel comfortable in betting it just yet without knowing officially who the quarterbacks are who are playing, and knowing the Bears. Like, Bears just changed this up 10 minutes before kickoff and actually through kickoff. Like, is it Nathan Peterman or is it Simeon? Oh no, it's Justin Fields. But I do like getting the Bears here points at home. I mean, I think that this is really the Bears Super Bowl of the year, especially if Justin Fields is playing. That shows that they really want to win this game and like take advantage of, Rodgers on a downswing. So I think that does have some interesting where you can get the fives. Actually, on FanDuel Sportsbook, we got it at 5.5. So I do think there's merit in taking that there. Lions getting a point some places, but on FanDuel Sportsbook, they're actually favored by 1. Still love that. I mean, I think that, the Lions have shown me, for one, they're playing for, I think, Dan Campbell's, like, not on the hot seat anymore, the way that they played against the Bills on Thanksgiving, but just the way this team has been playing in general. I just feel like, the Jaguars got to show me a little bit more than late game heroics at the end of the game to beat the Ravens to merit being favored in any spot. And then I will just say, and I don't want to get into the whole nature of this game, but Houston money line is live for me this week.
Okay.
Houston money line is live for me this week. That place is going to be rocking. So.
Yeah, an entire team having a revenge game is a new dynamic for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's plus 270 right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Texans money line. The Lions one, like you said, depends on where you're at. I saw the FanDuel move to it being a toss-up on the money line, minus 108 both sides. And so I opened up, my book here in Rhode Island uses Caesar's odds, and they do still have the Lions +1 there. So, shop around, check money line versus spread and stuff like that. Try to decide the odds of a tie, et cetera, et cetera. Go through that whole process and look where you're seeing. This is not where my models disagree, because I did have value in the Lions earlier on this week. Now it's showing value on the Jaguars because things move so much. So that's a fun game to diagnose for sure. I wanted to ask you about the Lions because I was thinking about them this week, and they're going to be adding a quarterback to Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about the Lions eventually. It's going to be a lot of fun there for sure. That is Ryan Williams. Check him out on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, I appreciate the time as always. Good luck to you in week 13. We'll talk to you once again next week. Yeah, it's fun as always, Jim. Can't wait to get after it with you again next week. And good luck to everybody on those week 13 bets. Alrighty, check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. I'm on Twitter at Jim Sonis. Again, make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts or over on the FanDuel YouTube page. Back tomorrow with props and some more World Cup talk. We'll talk to you then. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.